Good day, everybody. This is our project for GNED 126, and our topic is temperature extreme heat stress in the workplace. I have here with me my group members, Rosemarie Serrano and Syed, Hassan, Mubashar. Okay, so to get into it, first, what is heat stress? So naturally, the human body maintains a temperature between 36 and 37 degrees Celsius. And once the body encounters change due to extreme conditions, it may not be able to maintain or adapt to these conditions. And if it goes beyond that, the body could experience thermal stress, specifically heat stress. So heat stress occurs when the body takes more time to heat up than to cool down. And risk of heat stress occurs frequently in workers who are exposed to very hot environments. Heat stress could lead to occupational illnesses such as heat rash, cramps, stroke, and exhaustion. Also leads to fainting, and in worst case scenarios, it could lead to even death. So here is Rose to explain further the factors that causes heat stress.
Yes, thank you for that, Sheena. So after knowing the what heat stress is about, let's discuss the causes. So heat stress are caused by two main factors, which is the work-related and the personal condition of the worker. For work-related factors, heat stress is caused by both the environment and the nature of work itself. So it includes the if the work is outdoors or in direct sunlight, or when it's indoor, where the room temperature is higher than skin temperature, and places with high humidity and radiates heat, such as workers in bakeries, furnaces, and smelters. For the nature of work, these are the work that requires more physical activities, which causes to produce more heat. For the personal condition of the worker, if the worker has poor health or pre-existing conditions, their body will respond to overheating poorly. The personal factors, on the other hand, includes gender, age, weight, and existing medical condition or drugs that they currently use. So going to our research, we have identified frequently asked questions. And number one is, what are the effects of heat stress to our health? So understanding heat stress and identifying its symptoms early on can prevent and find appropriate treatment to avoid major impacts to individuals, especially when at workplace. Among the heat-related illnesses are heat rash, heat cramps, heat exhaustion, and heat stroke. Heat stroke is the most serious type. It is when the body is unable to regulate its core temperature. This happens because sweating stops and the excess heat gets trapped in the body. So when this happens, we have to ensure that the workers need to a cooler place. We lose their clothing. They take fluid if they are able. We fan them or use cold compress. For heat stroke or when the condition is not improving, we should call 911 immediately or seek medical assistance. So going to how does heat affects employee performance at the workplace. In hot environments, workers may undergo changes that have an impact on both their physical and mental health. So physical side effects include increased perspiration, fainting, weariness, dehydration. For mental impacts includes mood swings, irritation, poor attention, and violence. These are can affect the employee for performance at work. So a worker may become more easily fatigued and have problems concentrating in the heat, or workers are physically uncomfortable or less mentally aware. They may neglect safety rules or their attention will be inadequate. So the chances of getting into an accident is higher. Other ways that heat might raise the risk of injury include sweaty hands, tending to sleep, fogging or of safety goggles, and hot surfaces that can burn. Okay, so moving on to the next is Sheena, who will be discussing the third item.
Thanks, Rose. So why do we need to measure thermal stress? By being able to measure thermal stress or heat stress, we can identify the risks of heat hazard exposure, as heat stress has indicators that we can conveniently obtain and measure to be able to identify the heat stress index. And in the heat stress index, we calculate the following factors. First is the wet bulb global temperature, and the other one is the metabolic work rate. The WBGT is a measure of heat stress in the environment. It accounts for temperature, humidity, wind speed, and other environmental factors. It can be measured with the use of WBGT monitoring devices, while the metabolic rate can be measured by obtaining workers' information such as age, gender, height, weight, and by quantifying the workload rate. Other factors to be considered are workers' clothing by calculating its insulation and acclimatization. So detailed equations for these are made available in different OHSA guidelines. And with the help of properly assessing heat stress indices, heat stress in the workplace can be controlled, reduced, or prevented. The next question is, um, are there legal requirements that protect employees working in hot environment? The answer is, of course, yes. Occupational Health and Safety Act Clause 25, Section 27 states that employees and supervisors are obligated to take all necessary precautions for workers' protection. These requirements protects workers in extreme temperature by establishing policies and procedures in the workplace. This also includes a safe and healthy occupational exposure limited to high temperature. OHSA also requires employers to create a heat stress plan and hot weather plan. Workplaces that process heat, such as bakeries, smelters, and furnaces, are recommended to process heat by referring to the American Conference of Governmental Industrial Hygienists Manual. So to proceed with the last question, we have here Hassan. There you go.
Thank you so much, Sheena. I will take over from here. So the next question is, what are the different controls that we can put in place to prevent the heat stress? The first and foremost is preventive measures. This is preventive measures is the number one control for any hazard to prevent. And so it is for heat stress. Heat stress can be taken out by taking necessary preventive measures like regular training of employees or any other stakeholders which are directly involved in heat stress, reporting any kind of heat stress to the supervisor or the manager at duty, and acting to take out the hazard if required. Other preventive measure that we talk about is the administrative controls. They are very effective when it comes to heat stress, and they can also be combined with other controls. For example, administrative control can work with preventive measures and result in a very effective control. Let's just say if we can combine um, preventive measures like proper training and administrative control, like scheduling the workers less hours when the heat stress is the most out in the factory. The next preventive measure or control is wearing proper PPE. This is not the best control out there, but yes, it is the last resort, I would say. Um, we see PPE worn by either the people working in smelters or people working in coals, places where there's like a lot of heat is right there, or or like in our daily lives, the firefighters. But it's very important to wear PPE because even if you're not in the fire, you have to have uh, your own safety. Last but not least, the the control that we have is called engineering control. Engineering control is when the workplace is redesigned so that the cause of heat or heat stress is eliminated. For example, in a factory setting, heat stress can be there and it can be taken out or improved by adding extra ventilation, for example, fans and exhaust fans, so that air circulation can be made better. I have some recommendations for all of us and for all of the people who are hearing our presentation. First and foremost is don't take heat stress for granted. Yes, a lot of people take heat stress for granted, and then they suffer mentally and physically with heat stress. And we have seen a lot of cases in Qatar now where people have suffered um, mentally, physically, and they have lost their life while working in very hot places. So always make sure to uh, take the heat stress seriously. The second would be stay hydrated if you are working in a hot place where heat stress is present. Since we are almost made up of 70% of water, our body does need water to function properly. So stay hydrated so that you can work properly and you can be as productive as possible. Report any incidents that occur on your workplace that can cause or are causing heat stress, or report anything that is a cause of a new heat stress to the management as soon as possible so that it can be mitigated or taken out by the management. Always wear appropriate PPE when dealing with hard surfaces or objects, or if you're working in hot places, like wear loose clothes. But yeah, if you're in direct contact of heat, does wear proper PPE. I will be concluding our whole presentation with some with a conclusion that is like heat stress is a very important safety concern in the workplace and should not be taken lightly, as it presents a lot of health and safety risks. When unchecked and unmonitored, it can impact not just the employee's performance or productivity, but could also impact workers' health in a severe way that could even lead to death. This is one of the reasons, like why we have so many cases out there. Workers should always come forward and should tell if they are very comfortable with working wherever they are, so that if they are facing any heat stress, it can be taken out. Management should also play their part and implement different controls like engineering, administrative, PPE, and preventive measures as discussed before, so that either it can be prevented or the heat stress can be stopped. Last but not least, safety goes both ways. The employer and the worker has to work closely together to fight and combat against heat stress so that they can be more productive, they can love what they're doing, and they can come to the work next time with the same energy that they had before. Thank you so much for listening to our presentation. I hope you enjoyed our presentation.